Have you ever walked away from a woman and felt it in your gut? She wanted you to say something, but you didn't. You hesitated, and now she's gone. You replay the moments, her eyes holding yours a little too long, the way her voice softened when she said goodbye, that pause, like she was waiting. This video is for every man who's felt that silence hit harder than words. For the man who's been ghosted, not because she didn't care, but because he didn't act when it mattered. You see, when a woman truly wants you to reach out, she doesn't announce it. She leaks it through body language, tone shifts, and little cues. Most men are too distracted, too unsure, too afraid to notice. But here's the brutal truth. If you don't move, someone else will. And that missed signal, that hesitation, could cost you the woman who was quietly hoping you'd be the one. In this video, I'll show you 10 subtle, powerful signs she's waiting, maybe even longing for you to reach out. And by the end, you won't just see it, you'll feel it. So if you're tired of guessing, overthinking, or losing women who actually wanted you, watch this till the end. It's time to stop being reactive and start being intentional. And if you want to go deeper with men who get it, join the Stoic community. Become a member. Step into the mindset and leave hesitation behind. Don't just watch from the sidelines. Subscribe. Join us. Be better. Let's get into it. Number 1. Her eyes pause on you a second too long. You know that feeling when someone looks at you, not just glances, but sees you. There's a moment where time hangs still. Her gaze lingers just slightly longer than it should. It's not accidental. It's deliberate, but just shy of obvious. That extra second is where the unspoken lives. Her eyes might not say, "Come talk to me," but they're not saying, "Stay away," either. They hover in that gray zone. If you're a man who's been left in silence, unsure if she's waiting or moved on, this moment matters more than you think. Men often get stuck in their heads after a woman pulls away. You start analyzing texts, her social media, the last things you said, but her eyes. They're harder to fake than any words on a screen. That brief pause when she sees you across a room, when she looks up and doesn't turn away immediately, that's your clue. Now here's what you need to understand. A woman who wants nothing to do with you will avoid eye contact altogether. She'll look through you. Her gaze will be cold, brief, or distracted. But when she's still emotionally tied to you, even if she's confused, hurt, or guarded, her eyes linger. And it's not just about seeing you. It's about her needing to confirm something. Has anything changed? Are you still thinking about her? Do you look like a man who's moved on, or one who's waiting just like her? That pause is her testing the waters without saying a word. Why? Because she doesn't want to risk rejection. Women might pull back for many reasons: emotional overwhelm, fear of vulnerability, or just to see how you react. But if her eyes can't help but pause on you, it means she's not truly let go. Here's a real-world example. Picture two people who used to talk every day. One day the messages stop. Days turn into weeks. They run into each other by accident at a cafe, the gym, wherever. They lock eyes, and for that 1 second the world goes quiet. That second isn't just nostalgia. It's unfinished business. From a Stoic perspective, you can't cling to that moment, but you can recognize it with clarity and calm. Don't chase it. Don't build fantasy on it. But do understand what it reveals. Emotional tension still exists. Stoicism teaches us to read reality, not to react blindly. Her eyes pausing is information, not a command. It tells you there's still something there, but it doesn't mean you should act out of impulse. You lead with control, not emotion. If she wants to reconnect, that door must swing both ways. So what do you do with this sign? First, don't rush in. That lingering gaze, it's not a green light, it's a signal, a ping on your radar, a quiet invitation to observe more closely. See how she talks to others. Does she stay in your orbit or quickly exit a room you're in? Does she follow your movements subconsciously? Second, don't let the ego get loud. Many men mistake attention for devotion. A lingering look doesn't mean she's ready to pour her heart out. It might just mean she's still wondering if you're safe to reconnect with. Emotional safety is everything. And lastly, don't ignore your own instinct. You know when someone looks at you with meaning. Don't lie to yourself if that moment was real. But also don't inflate it. It's one piece of a larger puzzle. If you've ever caught her eyes and they stayed just a little longer than necessary, you know what I'm talking about. Let me know in the comments. Drop a simple "I see it" if this has ever happened to you. You're not alone in this. This isn't about playing games. This is about understanding emotional nuance and responding with dignity, not desperation. Let's keep going. There's more she's revealing than she's willing to admit. Number 2. The way she breathes around you changes. Let's talk about something most men overlook: the rhythm of her breathing. I know it sounds subtle, maybe even trivial, but if you want to understand whether a woman is waiting for you to reach out, pay attention not just to what she says, but to what her body does when you're near. When a woman's feelings are activated, when there's emotional residue, anticipation, or even nervous tension, her physiology reflects it. And one of the first things to shift her breathing. You walk into the room and she catches you in her peripheral vision. She inhales slightly deeper than usual. Maybe she fidgets, adjusts. Her posture takes a sip of her drink, just something to regulate the sudden stir in her system. That's not nothing. That's a sign. And this isn't guesswork. This is biology and psychology working hand in hand. When we're emotionally stimulated, even subconsciously, our nervous system kicks in. Breath shortens or deepens depending on the mix of anxiety, attraction, or anticipation. If she used to be relaxed around you, calm, steady in rhythm, but now she's a little breathy, a little unsettled, or even oddly quiet with shallow breaths, chances are her feelings are still lingering in the background. She's not sure what to say. She's holding back. She's waiting to see if you'll take the first step. It's especially revealing if she used to be playful or warm, and now you sense this shift in tempo, like she's holding something in. That emotional restraint often manifests through physical tension. Watch her shoulders, her chest, her jaw. Is she breathing freely, or like someone trying not to let her guard slip? Now don't get it twisted. Just because she seems a little breathless doesn't mean she's desperate or pining. But it does mean you affect her. And a woman who's truly moved on will barely blink when you walk in. Her breathing will remain even, calm, unbothered. This is where emotional intelligence separates the strong from the reactive. Stoicism doesn't mean shutting off your awareness. It means mastering it. You learn to read the room without becoming a slave to what you see. You take in the signs like a strategist. You make moves not from impulse but from position. Let's bring this into a practical example. You're at a friend's gathering. She's there. You haven't spoken in weeks. You nod, she nods. But then you notice she exhales when she sees you. Maybe her tone drops slightly. Maybe her breath catches for half a second before she says, "Hey." It's minor, but it's not meaningless. She's not indifferent. She's conflicted. This is where your posture matters. Not just physically, but emotionally. If you sense she's still breathing for you, still adjusting her emotional state when you show up, don't rush in. Let her come into balance. Let her choose to close the gap, not because you filled the silence, but because you held it. There's a Stoic principle here worth remembering. A wise man watches nature, not just behavior. And what is breath but nature's rhythm? The body doesn't lie. When the mouth can't say, "I miss you," sometimes the breath does. So how should you respond when you notice her breathing changes around you? Not with a smug grin, not with pressure, with calm, with a quiet acknowledgement that you still hold weight in her emotional world. That's power, that's presence, and that's how you draw her in, not by chasing, but by standing still and letting her gravity come to you. If you've ever noticed a shift in her breath when you walked in the room, maybe a quick inhale, a deeper exhale, even a moment of silence where she had to collect herself, drop a quick comment below. I felt it. That's all. No overthinking, just recognition. The truth is, a woman waiting for you doesn't always reach out with words. Sometimes it's the breath she holds when you walk by, the silence that's just a little too heavy, the air that feels different when she's standing next to you. Most men miss these things, but you won't anymore. Let's keep going. There are more signals, more subtle truths hiding in plain sight. Number 3. She plays distant, but her body leans in. Let's cut straight to it. When a woman keeps her words cool but her body betrays warmth, don't be fooled by the performance. She might be speaking like she doesn't care, texting like she's busy, or acting like you're just another guy, but her body, her posture, that's where the truth leaks out. Watch this dynamic closely. She might cross her arms but stand closer than necessary. She might not make eye contact, but her feet are pointed toward you. She says she's not thinking about you, but somehow her presence lingers in your orbit. This isn't random. It's not indecision. It's emotional chess. When a woman is holding back emotionally, but can't help physically leaning into your space, what you're seeing is emotional conflict. She wants you to chase. She wants you to earn the vulnerability she's afraid to give freely. And this right here is where most men get trapped. They see the cold responses, the short answers, the lack of initiative, and they assume she's not interested. So they walk away. But they missed the signs beneath the surface, the subtle lean-in during conversation, the way her knee taps toward you when she laughs, or how she lingers just a little too long when passing by. This is the body's silent confession. And it's powerful. Because the body doesn't lie, it reacts before the mind catches up. Here's a scenario to consider. You're talking with her in a group setting. Her words are neutral, maybe even slightly dismissive. She's teasing you, being sarcastic, but as the conversation unfolds, you notice she angles her torso toward you. She's laughing more at your jokes than anyone else's. And when you move an inch closer, she doesn't flinch, she stays. That's not disinterest. That's controlled vulnerability. That's her testing the waters while guarding her pride. Why? Because reaching out first emotionally is a risk. And for women who've been hurt or who don't want to appear eager, this act of keeping you emotionally at bay while physically staying close is a defense mechanism. Now here's where stoicism matters. A stoic man doesn't react to contradictions. He reads them. He doesn't lean in too fast or retreat too early. He holds his ground and lets the truth come to him. If she's playing distant, but her body is speaking the opposite language, don't push. Don't confront her with mixed signals. That breaks the tension prematurely. Instead, just notice. Let your awareness work in silence. Let her energy move first. You see, emotional awareness isn't about overanalyzing. It's about recognizing patterns, staying composed, and acting from strength, not need. Let me give you one more real-life example. You're at the end of a conversation. She says something like, "Anyway, I should get going," but she doesn't actually move. She just stands there, looking down, maybe brushing her hair behind her ear. That pause, that hesitation, that's her waiting. She wants you to say something, do something. She's not leaving. She's hoping you'll reach out. If you're too logical, too literal, you miss that. But if you stay present, you'll recognize her actions don't match her words. That's your window. And here's a powerful principle: when her energy leans in but her words lean out, always trust the energy. That's where the truth lives. If you've ever been in a situation like that where she acted distant but you felt the pull, go to the comments and type, "I saw the truth." No explanation needed. Just a simple nod that you're no longer blind to the signs. This video isn't just about women. It's about upgrading how you read people, how you read reality. Not by reacting emotionally, but by noticing the gaps. Staying calm in the presence of contradiction. That's strength. because when you can see past her distance and recognize the pull beneath it, you're not just chasing her, you're mastering yourself. Let's keep going. This next sign will sharpen your perception even more. Number 4. Her fingers fidget when you're near. Let's get straight to it, man. You ever stand near a woman and notice her fingers tapping the table, spinning her ring, adjusting her bracelet, or nervously scrolling through her phone even when she's not really looking at it? That's not just boredom. That's nervous energy. That's attraction trying not to get caught. A woman's hands say a lot when her mouth stays silent. When you walk into a room and she suddenly starts twisting her hair or fiddling with the strap of her bag or picking at her nails, she's not just passing time. Her body is reacting to presence, to energy, to you. Most men never catch this. They're too focused on what she says or how much she texts. They don't see the physical cues, the subtle ones that show she's on edge in your orbit, and not in a bad way. In that I feel too much and I'm trying to hide it kind of way. Let's break this down. Fidgeting is a physical displacement of emotional energy. It's the body's unconscious attempt to manage inner tension. And when that tension only shows up when you show up, that's your clue. That's the body betraying the mask. Now, don't confuse this with general anxiety or stress. This is context-based. If she's calm with everyone else composed in her environment but suddenly can't keep her hands still when she's near you, that's not coincidence. Here's a real-world example. You're talking in a group setting. She's confident, laughing, even a little flirty with others. But when the conversation shifts and you start engaging with her directly, her hands get busy. She reaches for her cup more than needed. She tugs at her sleeve. She touches her neck. She looks down. That's not a woman disinterested. That's a woman emotionally stirred and trying to regulate it. Stoicism teaches us to observe without judging, to notice without reacting. A Stoic man doesn't rush to conclusions. He watches. He lets truth rise to the surface. You don't need to confront or call it out. Just witness it and move with calm. Why does this matter? Because men who chase only the obvious signs, the texts, the smiles, the compliments, miss the real game. Women don't always express desire directly. Sometimes they leak it through motion, through discomfort, through fidgeting. And it's not weakness, it's vulnerability, controlled vulnerability. She wants to stay composed. She wants to appear unshaken. But the truth, her body is acting before her words can. That's when you know something real is simmering underneath. Think of it like this: the more she tries to contain herself, the more obvious it becomes. She feels something, and fidgeting is a crack in that control. If you've ever seen this happen, if you've ever noticed a woman getting antsy playing with her fingers or adjusting her jewelry every time you're close, drop a comment and type, "I read the signs." No long explanation. Just your quiet nod that you're starting to see more than what's said out loud. And listen, this level of awareness, it separates the average man from the grounded one. The Stoic doesn't need to press, doesn't need to chase. He sees, he understands, and then he moves only when it's right. She may never tell you with words, but her body is already speaking. And if you're finding value in learning how to read the silent language of women, of the moment of energy itself, make sure you subscribe to the channel. And if you want to go deeper, become a member of the Stoic community. That's where we sharpen the edge. That's where we separate noise from clarity. Stay with me, because the next sign, it flips everything you thought you knew about female behavior on its head. Number 5. She shows up then pulls back, repeatedly. Let's talk about the dance. You know the one I'm talking about. One day she's all in, replying instantly, laughing at your jokes, initiating conversations, even making plans. And then without warning she disappears. No explanation, just silence, cold, distant. Then, just as you start to let go, boom, she's back. A text, a smile, a little spark to pull you in again. And the cycle repeats. Man, if you've ever felt emotionally yanked around like that, it's not your imagination. It's not you overthinking. It's one of the clearest signs she's waiting for you to reach out, but on her terms. She's not playing checkers here, she's running a subconscious test, a push and pull of emotional signals designed to stir something in you. Let's be real, it messes with your head, and it's supposed to. This behavior hits your masculine instincts right in the chest. It creates a vacuum. It makes you question yourself. Did I say something wrong? Did I do too much? Should I chase now or wait? That tension, it keeps you emotionally hooked. But here's the Stoic truth. You must not react like a puppet to that rhythm. You must become the still point in the chaos. Because what she's doing, intentionally or not, is testing the balance between desire and dominance, between need and control. Women don't always ask for reassurance in a straight line. Sometimes they send signals in a pattern, the warm presence followed by withdrawal. That's her saying, are you strong enough to stand still when I pull back, or will you crumble and chase? Let me give you a scenario. She sends you a photo out of nowhere. Something cute, casual, but intimate. It sparks a smile. You respond, maybe try to keep the conversation going. Then, silence, for hours, maybe days. You think, what just happened? It's tempting to double text, to over-explain, to lean in harder. Don't. Instead, hold the line. A Stoic man doesn't react from insecurity. He observes, he waits, he protects his center. Because this pattern isn't just about attention, it's about tension. She's checking to see what kind of man you are. Are you the type who's tossed around by a little emotional inconsistency, or are you grounded, consistent, unaffected by the tides? There's a powerful lesson here. 1. The ancient Stoics knew all too well. You cannot control another's actions, only your response. That's your power. That's your freedom. And look, not all women play this game with malicious intent. Sometimes it's unconscious. She might be battling her own fears, her own uncertainty. She wants connection, but she also fears vulnerability. So she sends out waves, then pulls them back, just to feel safe again. The key is not to fight the tide or chase it. The key is to stand where you are, solid and calm. If she wants to meet you at that level, she will. If not, you lose nothing. This is how you flip the script. Instead of being confused by the inconsistency, you begin to read it like a pattern. You understand that emotional intensity followed by emotional retreat is often a sign of conflicted interest, not lack of interest. And sometimes, it's her way of screaming. Reach out, but not too fast. Show strength, not desperation. Let me ask you, have you ever experienced this kind of emotional whiplash? If so, drop a quick comment and write, I stayed grounded. That's it. No explanation. Just those 3 words, if you've learned to hold your frame through the storm. And remember, when you stop trying to decode every silence and instead master your own, everything changes. Stay sharp, because the next sign we're about to uncover is one most men miss entirely, yet it happens right in front of them. Keep watching. Number 6. Her voice softens just for you. Have you ever noticed how some people speak to the world one way, but when they talk to you, it's different? Pay attention to that. Because when a woman's voice changes just for you, it's not an accident. It's not a coincidence. It's a signal, a soft cue in a loud world. Think about it. She's usually animated, high energy, laughing loudly with her friends. But when she turns to you, her tone drops, her words slow down, and suddenly there's something gentler there, something more personal. That's the softness we're talking about. It's instinctual, almost primal. She may not even realize she's doing it, but she is. And in that softness, she's inviting intimacy, not necessarily physical right away, but emotional closeness, vulnerability, connection. She's making space in the rhythm of the moment to pull you in, to say without words, you're different. That change in her voice, that's presence, that's investment, and it means she's no longer performing for the room, she's tuned in to you. Stoicism teaches us to observe more than we react, to pick up on the nuance behind the moment. And in this case, the shift in vocal tone isn't just pleasant, it's revealing. It tells you how she feels when she's around you. It tells you what her body hasn't dared to express yet. You might notice it when you're standing just a little closer than usual, or when the room fades and it's just the two of you in conversation. Suddenly her voice wraps around your attention like velvet. It's lower, slower, more careful with the words. This isn't about seduction in the typical sense, it's about intimacy. Because here's the truth, when a woman feels emotionally drawn to you, she'll unconsciously want to soften. It's a way of saying, I feel safe with you. And that feeling, that's powerful. Now let's ground this in something real. Picture this, you're talking to her at a get-together. There's background music, people mingling, laughter bouncing off the walls. When she talks to others, her tone is upbeat, casual, public. But when she turns to you, her voice dips, her words slow, the rest of the room blurs. Her attention sharpens. It's subtle but unmistakable. That voice change. It's a boundary drop, a silent offering, one that says, I want this moment to feel different with you. But here's where most guys mess it up. They miss the moment. They talk over it. They rush. They don't match that softness with stillness. Don't be that guy. When her voice shifts, you shift. Lower your energy. Speak slower. Be present. Because when you mirror her emotional tone without losing your grounded masculine calm, you build tension, the good kind, the magnetic kind. Stoic philosophy tells us control is not power. Mastery of self is, and in this moment, that's what matters most. You don't chase the softness. You respond to it with steadiness. It's also worth noting that this kind of vocal shift usually comes after emotional trust is already building. She may not flirt outright, she may not touch, but the way she speaks to you, that's where the desire sneaks out. That's where the unspoken starts to speak. And I get it. Some of you might be wondering, what if I'm reading too much into it? Look, if this was a one-off moment, sure, don't overanalyze. But if you consistently notice her voice changing when you're alone together or when the conversation gets real, don't ignore that. It's intentional, even if it's subconscious. The way she speaks around you is a reflection of how she feels around you. If she's guarded, her tone is tight, fast, clipped. If she's playful, it's light and teasing. But when it gets quiet, when it slows down, when she lowers it just for your ears, that's when you know something deeper is happening. So tell me this, have you ever caught that shift, that softness in her tone that seemed like it was meant for you and no one else? If so, drop a quick comment. I noticed her voice change. Just those 5 words. That's all. Let's see how many men here are finally learning to hear what's not being said. And stay with me, because the next sign isn't about what she says. It's about where her feet point, when she doesn't even realize you're watching. Let's keep going. Number 7. She mentions you without saying your name. Let's talk about a different kind of mention, the kind that isn't obvious, the kind that hides in plain sight. Because when a woman is waiting for you to reach out, she doesn't always make it direct. Sometimes she wraps it in stories, inside comments, in carefully chosen words. She'll mention a moment you shared or something you said without ever attaching your name to it. And that right there is the tell. She'll say, someone I was talking to once said, or this one guy had the weirdest habit. And deep down you know it's you she's talking about. But she doesn't say your name. Why? Because saying your name would mean owning the emotional weight behind it. So, instead she creates a shadow version of you in conversation. You become the unspoken reference point, a ghost in the dialogue. That's not avoidance, it's invitation. It's her subtle way of checking. Is he listening? Is he still paying attention? In Stoic terms, this is what Marcus Aurelius would call a signal behind the signal, the hidden message beneath surface behavior. The Stoic doesn't react to what's loudest. He notices what's deliberately quiet. And here's where it gets deeper. When a woman misses your presence but she's not ready to admit it, she'll test the waters emotionally. She'll toss breadcrumbs but never the loaf. It's a safety play. She wants connection but on her terms. She wants to know if you'll pick up on the signs, if you're still tuned in to her frequency. A woman might say, "Someone used to laugh at me for how I take my coffee while glancing your way." She'll bring up an inside joke with no context. She might reference back when things were simpler in a group setting, knowing only you will catch the real meaning. That's her way of reaching across the emotional gap without admitting the gap exists. But here's what separates the average guy from the grounded man. The average guy misses it. The grounded man catches it but doesn't chase it. He listens, he notices, but he doesn't leap at the bait. Because when you're centered in your masculine frame, when you move with intention, not impulse, you know that emotional restraint isn't weakness, it's power. You understand that her coded references are an emotional compass. She's signaling direction without showing her map. And you don't panic. You don't demand clarity. You stay still long enough to read what's being written between the lines. Now, let's be real. Sometimes a woman mentioning you without saying your name is a way of keeping control. It gives her emotional leverage. She gets to express her attachment without being vulnerable. But vulnerability is where real connection happens. So don't let that dynamic twist you into knots. Just observe it. If the pattern continues, if she keeps bringing you up in conversation without naming you, chances are you're still taking up space in her emotional world. She just hasn't figured out how to invite you back into it yet. So what do? You don't overreact. You don't flood her inbox. You don't fall for the emotional trap of assuming you owe her anything. You do what a Stoic would do. You reflect. You clarify your own intentions. You decide if you still want to play the game or walk your own path. Because her silence around your name might be filled with longing, or it might be filled with confusion. Either way, your job is not to decode every line. It's to remain centered enough that when you do choose to respond, it comes from strength, not need. So let me ask you, have you ever heard a woman bring you up in front of others without actually naming you? Did you recognize it for what it was? If you've ever had that experience, drop it in the comments right now with this phrase, "I knew she ever meant me." 4 words, that's it. Let's see how many men here are finally learning to hear what women aren't saying out loud. Because if she's still talking about you without saying your name, you're still in the room. Whether you choose to walk back into it, that's your call. And if you thought that one was subtle, just wait until we dive into how her physical rhythm starts to sync with yours without her even realizing it. Let's keep going. Number 8, she keeps accidentally touching you. Let's not sugarcoat. This touch is never accidental. Not when it's repeated, not when it lingers. If a woman keeps finding ways to touch you, brushing your arm when she laughs, her knee accidentally bumping yours under the table, her hand on your back as she walks by, it's not by chance. It's calculated, softly, subtly, but calculated. Now you might say, "Come on, man, it's nothing. She's just touchy with everyone." And sure, that could be true. But a Stoic man doesn't just look at what happens, he watches for patterns. He sees through repetition. And when that same touch keeps happening with you, not with the guy next to you, not with her coworkers, not with the barista, it's a cue. She's signaling comfort, closeness, and curiosity. This kind of touch isn't sexual yet, but it's not platonic either. It lives in that strange gray zone where desire tries not to show its face, and yet it does. She's testing your awareness. She's asking, "Do you feel this too?" But here's where it gets psychological. Touch is primal. It bypasses language. It's the first sense we develop as human beings. So when a woman initiates it, even in these micro moments, what she's really doing is peeling back a layer of emotional armor. She's moving the interaction out of the mind and into the body. Now, why does this matter? Because it's also her way of taking control of the pace. She touches, then pulls back. She closes the distance, then creates space. It's a rhythm. And the key is don't disturb it. Most men, the moment they feel that first spark of touch, either ignore it or overreact. One freezes, the other leans in too hard, too fast. But not you. You're here for a reason. You're not the kind of man who needs constant validation. You've studied this. You understand that the most powerful move is to feel the moment and let it breathe. So the next time she does that thing, resting her hand on yours a second too long, or letting her fingers graze your sleeve as she walks past, don't react like it's your first rodeo. Just observe. Let her energy fill the silence. Let her wonder what you're thinking, because that mystery, that's what keeps the dance going. From a Stoic lens, this is about presence without possession. Seneca wrote, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." And that's the trap for most men, overthinking every touch, every glance. But the disciplined man, he stays grounded in reality. He feels the signal, he acknowledges it, but he doesn't chase it. Instead, he understands that her touch isn't just about now, it's a preview of trust, of intimacy, of permission. And here's something else you need to know. Women don't touch what they're not attracted to. They don't reach out for what repels them. So if she's initiating physical contact, she's already said something with her body that she won't say with her mouth. That's your edge. But don't abuse it. Don't turn it into pressure. Let it remain what it is, a spark. And maybe this has already happened to you. Maybe you're thinking of a specific moment right now. If that's the case, I want you to drop this phrase in the comments. I felt the spark. Let's hear how many of you have been in the room with this exact sign and finally understand what it meant. Because when a woman wants you to reach out, she won't always say it. But her body, it'll tell you everything. Stay tuned, what comes next will shift how you read desire completely. Number 9. Her energy pulls you in, then pauses. You ever been in a room with her and it feels like something's about to happen, but doesn't? Like she's drawing you in with her vibe, her voice, her body language, her attention, and then just when it feels like there's momentum, she steps back. The light in her eyes fades. The warmth cools, and suddenly you're left wondering, did I just imagine that you didn't? This kind of energy shift is real. And it's one of the clearest signs that a woman is waiting for you to reach out. But she's not going to hand it to you. She's not chasing you down. She's testing the pull. Then she's testing the pause. Think of it like a flame. She leans in close enough to let you feel the heat, but she doesn't burn you. Then she steps away, watching what you'll do with the warmth she left behind. This isn't manipulation. It's instinct. It's emotional signaling. And it's rooted in something very old. See, attraction, especially deep attraction, isn't linear. It dances. And women who are truly interested don't always come forward in a straight line. Sometimes they reach out with their energy, and then they retreat to see if you'll follow or if you'll remain grounded. And this is where the Stoic mindset becomes powerful. A Stoic doesn't chase energy. He holds still. He observes. He remains centered in his own gravity. And that stillness, it becomes magnetic. So when she pulls back after pulling you in, don't panic, don't overthink, don't ask yourself what you did wrong. Instead, ask a better question. What is she waiting to see from me right now? Because here's the truth. When she pauses, she's not always losing interest. Sometimes she's just creating space. Space for you to act. And how you respond to that silence tells her everything. You rush in, she reads neediness. You act cold, she reads disinterest. But if you hold that space like a man who's not shaken by a pause, who stays present, calm, unbothered, that's when she starts to trust your energy. Let's bring it down to something real. You're at a bar. She's leaned in close, laughing at your jokes, brushing her hair behind her ear, eyes fixed on you. Then her phone buzzes. She checks it, looks away. You feel the shift. The spark's still there, but now it's muted. What do most guys do? They rush to reclaim her attention. They double down, talk more, try harder. But you sip your drink. You hold eye contact when it returns. You don't fill the silence, you respect it. Because you understand. The game she's playing isn't to get your attention, it's to see if you know your worth when her attention wavers. That pause, it's not rejection, it's a filter. A woman waiting for you to reach out doesn't always say it with words. She says it with her energy. And when that energy ebbs and flows, it's not to confuse you, it's to reveal you. Are you steady? Are you confident without her constant warmth? Can you lead without chasing? This is the moment you either break the spell or deepen it. She pulls you in, then pauses, not to manipulate you, but to see if you know what you're doing there in the first place. So I want to hear from you. Have you felt this kind of pull-pause energy before? If that moment rings true, drop a comment that says, "I don't chase, I hold." Let's see who among us has started recognizing this deeper language of attraction. Because the real ones, they don't beg for attention. They become the presence that makes her energy return. Number 10. She waits for you but will never ask. Here's something most men miss, not because we're blind, but because we're wired differently. When a woman is truly interested, when she's emotionally leaning toward you, she waits, but she doesn't ask. She doesn't spell it out. She doesn't hand you a map with arrows saying, "Here, make your move now." She just waits. And she hopes that you'll notice what she won't say. The modern world has confused many men into thinking that if a woman doesn't make the first move, if she doesn't explicitly express her desires, then she must not be interested. But that's not how female desire typically works. That's not how emotional vulnerability plays out for her. She might check your stories but never text. She might show up where she knows you'll be, but act casual. She might send you something random, a meme, a song, a one-line message, and hope you'll see the meaning buried under the surface. She's throwing breadcrumbs, not road signs. Why? Because vulnerability costs her more than it costs you. Because somewhere deep in her wiring, emotionally, socially, biologically, there's a calculation happening. If I reach out and he doesn't respond, I lose. So instead of asking, she signals. Instead of chasing, she lingers. Instead of confessing, she creates moments, little gaps in time and space where she hopes you'll step in. And this is where your presence as a Stoic man becomes everything. Because a Stoic doesn't just read what is said. He observes. He sees beyond the obvious. He listens to what silence might mean. When she's not asking, but she's still there. When she hasn't walked away, but she isn't stepping forward either. That's the waiting. That's the quiet place where men either step up or disappear and leave her wondering if she misread everything. Let me give you something real. You've been texting casually for weeks. She's responsive, laughs at your jokes. She sends pictures of her day. But when it comes to making plans, she never initiates. You think she's lukewarm. But what you're missing is, she's waiting. Waiting to feel safe, waiting to feel led, waiting to see if you're decisive enough to act. She'll wait for weeks like this, months even, hoping you'll pick up the weight of initiation, hoping you'll recognize the opportunity sitting right there in her subtle attention, but she won't ask. And if you're passive too long, eventually that waiting becomes disappointment, and disappointment becomes distance, and distance, it always wins in the end. This is where your strength is measured, not in how loud you are, not in how aggressive, but in how clear you can be. Because masculine energy doesn't ask for permission, It reads the room, checks for mutual signals and moves with intention. And if she's been waiting, really waiting for you to reach out, she won't say thank you when you finally do. She'll just exhale. A subtle softness will return to her, because now she can relax into your presence, because she doesn't have to hold the tension anymore. Women don't want to chase, they want to be chosen, but not begged, not pleaded for. Chosen by a man who moves with purpose, not desperation. If she's waited and you've done nothing, you may lose her. Not because you weren't enough, but because your silence made her feel like she wasn't. Let that sink in. Sometimes the woman who waits the longest is the one who would have loved you the most, if only you'd said something. So ask yourself, is there someone right now who's not asking but still present, still connected, still subtly hoping? If so, what are you waiting for? Drop it in the comments with this line: I move with purpose. Let the world know you're not the man who waits until it's too late. Because at the end of the day, she's not going to spell it out. She's not going to break the silence. She's not going to ask. But if she's still there, she's waiting. For you. You've seen the signs. You've felt them. The glance that lingers, the pause in her breath, the silence that speaks louder than words. Most men miss it. They hesitate, overthink, wait for the perfect moment, then wonder why it never came. But not you. You're here because you're done playing in the dark. You're ready to see through the noise and act like a man who knows his value. Now here's the truth. This channel isn't just about watching content. It's about sharpening your instincts, building that calm, grounded presence that women feel even from across the room. So if this video struck a chord, don't just walk away. Subscribe to the channel right now. And if you're serious about going deeper, not just scratching the surface, but becoming the kind of man who doesn't flinch, doesn't chase, and doesn't fold, then join as a channel member today. Inside we talk raw, unfiltered, things we don't share publicly, tools, tactics, mindsets, a real brotherhood. No fluff, no ego, just truth that hits. So don't wait. Hit subscribe. Join the Stoic community, and I'll see you on the inside, where real growth begins. Stay sharp, stay grounded, and remember, she's not waiting forever.